Formula E, it's back, ladies and gents, and as I promised at the beginning of the week, your testing report, your testing review, it's right here, right now. In today's video, we're having a look at all 3 days of testing, having a little look at one of the race simulations, and trying our best to do a bit of a guesstimate at which teams are looking competitive and which teams have a little bit more work to do before the season starts in November. If you're new around here, my name is Dan and I'll be covering Formula E for the entire season for a 3rd year in a row, so feel free to subscribe if you want to keep up to date. But let's have a look at the first day of testing. As you can see on your screens is our first combined times for the Tuesday, the first real day of testing. As you'll see, there has been morning sessions and afternoon sessions, but I'm using the combined times, so morning and afternoon put together for your best laps. And it was Envision Virgin on the first day putting in some pretty strong laps. Sam Bird outright fastest, a driver who's been with the team and in the sport since day one. But it was Maxi Günther who's going into his first year with BMW, his first full season of Formula E. He did a big chunk of last year, but he was P2. The man he replaced, Antonio Felix da Costa, was P3 for his new team DS Techeetah. Mitch Evans was P4 for Jaguar, and P5 your reigning champ, Jean-Eric Vergne. Don't worry, we'll have a bit more of a debrief once we've covered all 3 of the testing days' times. The second day, this was the test where we had our race simulation, and I want to have a little talk about that. That's something that we don't have in Formula 1 and other sports, but Formula E, they want to have a bit of fun in these tests, so they did have a couple of simulation runs. This was one of the days that they did it on. However, despite not winning the race, once again for a second day in a row, Envision Virgin right at the top of the times. This time it was Robin Frijns, Sam Bird down in P13 in the second session. However, Maxi Günther again P2 and his teammate Alexander Sims P3. Nissan were putting in some good times on day 2 with a P4 for Ollie Rowland, and Nico Muller, the rookie in a Dragon car, which last year wasn't looking great, P5, I think is an absolutely cracking job. And as you'll see later on in the week when we do our teams and driver video, I actually think Nico could be one to watch and a bit of an underdog. And our final set of testing times comes from Friday. Maxi Günther, P2 on day 1, P2 on day 2, but on the final day came out on top, a fastest lap of the week of a 1:15.087. It was Pascal Wehrlein. We all know Pascal Wehrlein if you followed Formula 1. He was P2, showing a little bit more pace in the final day and actually showed good promise during the race simulation on the Wednesday, but P2, I think he can be very happy with that on the final day of testing. Nico Muller P3, Da Costa P4, Mitch Evans P5, then the Nissan of Sebastian Buemi, and you can already see that Formula E Season 6 is going to be just as tight as any season, at least at the front. At the back, I think it's a little bit of a different story, but that is your sets of times. Let's have a bit of a breakdown, because I don't know about you, looking at timesheets can be a little bit boring. I know that's the data, that's the statistics we have, the only things we can really go off, but at the end of the day, it's testing, and as we all know, as Formula 1 fans, there's definitely some mind games that go on behind closed doors, but also, it's testing. Teams don't want to show their full potential, they want to play games, so yes, we can look at the times, but at the end of the day, they're just numbers. So what I'm going to do is go through team by team, and I've kind of done this a little bit back to front, because my plan is before the season starts, if you didn't catch the video the other day, if you did, I'm just regurgitating, so you can just skip forward 10 seconds or so, but the plan is, over the next few weeks, I would say, teams and drivers video will be coming out, giving you a little bit of history of the teams, who are the drivers. We've got a few rookies in this year, telling you what the liveries are, all that good stuff. We'll do a beginner's guide, rules and regulations, so don't panic too much. Today's video is just a little bit to ease you into the season, just to give you that little taste, leave you wanting more, hopefully, at the end of the day. So, I'm going to go through team by team. I know there's teams that people are more interested in and not so interested in. So I'm just going to do it based on an order that comes out of my head at complete random. So if I forget a team, that's definitely a possibility. Apologies. The team I want to start with is Neo. A lot of you, even if you probably followed Formula E last year, won't really know who Neo are because they spent so much of the season at the back of the grid. To put it in Formula 1 terms, they're basically Williams, which is not meant to any disrespect as Williams. Well, that's a bit of a lie, isn't it? They're both at the back of the grid. Facts don't care about your feelings sometimes. I've got to spit the truth there. Last in every single session, Mark Inquire. He's replaced Tom Dillman for this season, but Neo 333 technically are a new team. They've been bought out by an investment company. It's still not looking great. Oliver Turvey, widely regarded as one of the most underrated drivers on the Formula E grid. He was second to last on the final 2 days. Showed a little bit more promise on the first day, finishing up in P19. But even then, P19 isn't brilliant. I mean, last year, they were fighting with the Dragon cars, the HWA cars. HWA, for new fans, aren't in the sport anymore. They've evolved into Mercedes. That's where Van Dorn was last year, HWA. And actually, I hate to say this because I know a lot of you are going to be coming into the championship this year supporting Mercedes. They were down near the bottom. I've got to admit, race pace looks better. Stoffel Van Dorn actually won the simulation race, so I don't think you can read the full picture with Mercedes, and we've definitely heard that before talking about testing. But Van Dorn and De Vries, 22nd and 23rd on the third day, about 2.5 seconds off the fastest time. On the second day, Van Dorn was 17th, Nick De Vries 22nd, and on the final day, a little bit more pace, Nick De Vries 21st, Stoffel Van Dorn 17th, only about half a second off the fastest time, so that's a little bit better. But race simulation, that's what looked good for Mercedes. Overall fastest lap times, not brilliant, but on that final day, Gunter, a 1:15.0, then you go down to Van Dorn in 17th, a 1:15.7. So 7/10 of a second separates first and 17th. For me, that's very impressive, and that's showing some really good signs for this season. But I think in their lineup, they've got... Well, it's quite an inexperienced lineup, and they're an inexperienced team. And I'm going to have to reiterate this for quite a few videos. Don't expect Mercedes to jump in this year. It's technically their second year in the sport. Give them a little bit of time. I don't think they'll be winning races. I don't think they'll be championship contenders. But I think it'll be a step up from last year. And for all you Stoffel fans, I think that'll be very nice to hear. The next team, the next new team is Porsche. I'm getting used to saying Porsche. I think I'm getting there. A more experienced lineup than Mercedes. However, Porsche are going into their very first season. They didn't have a taster session like Mercedes did last year. They're looking as where you'd expect. Similar kind of results to Mercedes. Lotterer has the edge over Yanni in all three of the sessions. So that's as you would expect, to be totally honest with you. But in all three sessions, in the bottom half, race pace didn't look as good as Mercedes from my point of view. But again, it's testing. I wouldn't expect them to be really challenging for the first few years. But a strong start, I would say, for Porsche, considering that this is their first year in the sport. Moving on, I'm going to go with Jaguar. Mitch Evans really carried that team on his back last year. They've signed a rookie, James Colado, who I really am interested to talking to you guys about in my teams and drivers video. He's someone who wasn't on my radar, but now he's in Formula E. I've done a bit of research, and actually, you look at his junior career, and it doesn't seem that bad. Outperformed a lot of drivers in his time in the lower categories in GP3 and GP2, so I think he could be a bit of an underdog this year. He was a little bit further down than Mitch Evans. Evans on the final day was 5th overall, which I think, again, I think the car will be similar to last year. But Evans in the top 10 in the final 2 days. that car's got pace, and I would expect to see it fighting for podiums again this season. Venturi, to me, they've given up on powertrains. They're now using a Mercedes powertrain, which is a bit of a gamble in my eyes. Mortara and Massa are staying at the team for another year, but again, it wasn't brilliant. On the first day, Mortara and Massa both in the bottom 15. On the second day, Massa down in P20. And on the final day, Felipe Massa 10th. A little bit more impressive, but still room for improvement, I would say. I don't want to just go through all the teams. I mean, that's a nice mix of, I think, are going to be the lower half of the teams. I think Dragon will probably be within that mix as well. But I think the top teams is what we really want to be looking at. And I'm coming away from testing thinking, and again, it's testing, and last year BMW looked comfortably the favourites. They only won the first race of the year, and actually DS Techeetah, I think, had the best car last year. But as of now, this is an early prediction, a bold prediction. I think your top 4 teams are Virgin, BMW, Nissan, and Techeetah. I think Audi, maybe Audi as well, but they're my top 4. Then I think you're going to have that tier behind, which is going to be Audi, Mahindra, Jaguar, and then I think you're going to have the likes of Venturi, Mercedes, sadly, Porsche, Dragon, which isn't too dissimilar to last year, but that's what I'm reading from the Times. I think Maxi Gunter, actually, could be a massive surprise. They're an inexperienced lineup at BMW. BMW are an inexperienced team, and that's what makes me kind of feel I'm being a little bit harsh on teams like Audi that have proven before in Formula E they know what they're doing. Nissan as well, don't forget, they're still a team that won multiple Formula E teams championships when they were Renault. They were Renault Edams and evolved last year into Nissan Edams. And I think as the year got on last year, they got better and better. And I think they could be dark horses as well. It's too early to tell, but I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Which team do you think is looking great so far? Long runs, race pace, Stoffel Van Dorn, the DS Techeetah car, I still struggle to say that one, of Antonio Felix da Costa, looking good. I think we could have a new champion in Season 6. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments below. Keep an eye out over the next few days for more Formula E content. I'm going to be pumping it out over the next few weeks, so keep your eye out for that one. If you're new around here and you've made it this far, feel free to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.